Amazing, Mike. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited.
Cool.
Super excited. And so, okay, when I was going through and I was like, yay, Mike Diamond, you're awesome. All right, let's go through and have a look at all the incredible things that you are creating and that you have created in the world. And author, speaker, coach, TV personality, Guinness World Record holder, bodybuilder, like all of these incredible things. How did you get to where you are right now? Like, that's what I'm super interested in.
You know what's really great? All right, so when you say all those things, what's really weird is that was what people years ago told me was my downfall, is I would diversify too much. I would try to do too many things. But everything was all about trying to be of service to other people and trying to bring value to other people. And when I first came, I'm born in Perth, right? And undiagnosed dyslexic, kicked out of school. They didn't understand like my strategies, drug addiction, OCD. And so when I got kicked out of school, I was a really good athlete, but I knew this, I could do acting. I was just really good at acting. So I moved to Sydney. I graduated from one school and moved to Sydney after Perth because Perth was just horrible. And this is before we could do this kind of stuff. You know, it was like, it was the middle of nowhere. It's the most isolated capital city in the world. So I moved to Sydney and I got into acting school, and it was a really good acting school, but I befriended the wrong people and I was sober young. I was sober at like 19, 20, but then I got caught into it. You know what I mean? I didn't understand drug addiction. I just would do these periods of just sobriety by myself. And I befriended this teacher and he was just the wrong person. And so I had the talent to act and do music and I was singing in bands, but I just knew it was something deeper. But Australia doesn't really push mentorship or like that kind of stuff. It's that tall poppy stuff. So it's a crazy story. I left acting school because the teacher did something inappropriate to the student. And I was kind of there at the time and he drugged us up. And I had to make a decision intuitively. And I'm like, this guy's been doing this and he shouldn't have done this. So I need to go against him so the girl knows that she never should be treated like that. Mm. So I went against him and they said, look, it's your word against his. And I said, that's fine, I'll leave. So I always knew I was coming to America. And I knew, I didn't understand what my purpose was, but I knew it was to be of service somehow. So I walked into a clothing store in this busy mall in Australia called Pitt Street Mall. And I asked the guy for a job. I said, look, I'll work for free for a week and let me sell clothes. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Because I would go and see the guys and they would say, aren't you going to acting school? And I said, look, I'm going to do the acting thing, but I need to save some money. So the guy called me out. He's like, forget a week for free. If you can sell something to someone that walks in, I'll give you a job. And I just had that ability to step, and a lady walked in and I sussed her out and, you know, she was looking at some clothes. So I said, are you looking for your husband or your son? And she said, my son. And I just went with it. And I was like, in my head, I have an idea. So I found the outfit that was in the window and I went into the change room and tried it on. And she bought the outfit. So I get this job in this clothing store, hustling away. And this lady comes in off the street and I do my same song and dance. And I sell her a bunch of stuff for her husband. And she's like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm moving to America. Crazy thing, you know, law of attraction. She says, oh, you should enter the green card lottery. And I'm like, what's that? She goes, you can win a green card in a lottery. I'm like, yeah, you're smoking peyote. You're out of your mind. So the next day, I got a little stoned before work with my friend. And I never smoked. And I see her walking down the mall. So I kind of panic. And I'm like, oh, she's going to return the clothes. It's before we open. So I hide in the back. And she says, hey, where's Mike? And he's like, he's in the back somewhere. He's in the stock room. And she's like, I bought him the green card lottery ticket. It's a true story. I get the ticket, right? Crazy. And I go home that night. And I'm like, what are the chances? So I go to the American Embassy the next day. And I just said, is this real? They go, yeah, you're not going to win. So this is crazy. So I send my parents' address in Perth because I'm going to come to America no matter what. And my parents, we don't really have a good relationship. They don't really believe me. I've got an older brother, younger sister. It's a weird dynamic. And they end up getting the package. I don't get it. And then I go, did you get anything for me? They're like, no. And I'm planning to come, so I'm packing to leave. And then I get this package about 2 weeks before I was going to leave work and that. And I'd won a green card in a lottery. Nuts.
Wow. What did that, like, in that moment, what was going on for you? Like, had you any idea of manifestation, law of attraction, that sort of thing back then?
This is the one thing that I never understood it, but I knew this. I always had really good intuition as a kid, and I'm always being connected to my source. So I always tell people, have faith in that feeling, in that source. And it's 1% inspiration, 99% process and perspiration. People fall down expecting the feeling to last forever. No, you get the feeling, then you do the work. So I fall in love with the work that has no end. If I feel it, I have faith in the unknown. You know what I mean? Like, I drive. I don't care. I don't need the information. I feel it. If I feel it, I go. Because people get caught up in looking at these things that everyone else has instead of feeling it and trusting. Look, anyone can have faith in a feast. Have faith in the famine. Do you know what I mean? Do the work. You know what I'm saying? This is a good time for me. This does not affect me at all. I have no stress. I can connect with people like you. I can put together the Conscious Outlaw, which I've been sitting on for 2 years. 2 years I've been sitting on it. I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. And then it happened. I'm like, perfect. So I just go with the feeling. And then that's how I landed in America. Like, when I landed in America with nothing, there's a crazy story. I went to Miami first. The guy screwed me over. And I had to sleep on the beach a couple of nights with my suitcase. Then I went to a hostel. And I got a job in a jewelry store, selling jewelry, just making money. And I was doing some music projects. And this guy literally came up to me and saw me. At the time, I had like a mohawk, red hair. I was out of my mind. But I was like going to acting auditions. And he said, do you want to work in a nightclub? I said, yeah, no, absolutely not. And he's like, it's $150 a night. And I'm like, I'll work in a nightclub. Because my apartment was like $300 a month on South Beach. It was this great little apartment with my dog. And it's crazy.
Were you drinking at this time? Were you like an addiction at this time? Or was that still like, no, you're still sober at that time? Yeah.
I would go, it was weird. I had these periods, complete sobriety, really focused. That was my biggest downfall was I could function, like I could literally drink a bowl of vodka, do an 8 ball of cocaine, and the next day wake up and go to the gym.
Wow.
Like, so it was work, but you got to remember, I grew up playing rugby. I grew up doing crazy things. So it was work hard, play hard, work hard, play hard. So I was around those people constantly. So I didn't understand that it was an addiction. I didn't understand that it was cyclical. And I was taking on all these things from quantum past lives into this life and repeating cycles. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand that stuff. I was just, well, that's what I do. That's what we do. You know, but this is what was hard, because intuitively I knew what I should and shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? So that was where the problem was. So this guy gives me a job in Miami, and there's this really famous nightclub opening up. These guys from New York, there's guys, David, Michael, and Tony, and they meet me, they love me. They're like, you want to work in the club? And I was honest, I said, not really. And they're like, it's $250 a night. I'm like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like 1997, 98. I'm like, so I knew I'd make tips. And the crazy thing is I just wanted a job opening a VIP room. That's it. Just let me do something simple. I'll go home and I'll work on my other stuff. Mm-hmm. And the guy that ran the door of the club, this famous guy from New York, got a DUI. So the night of the opening, they go, hey, do you want to run the door of the club? And I'm like, okay. And the craziest thing is I didn't understand the tipping system. So I'm hired for a job. people are offering me money. I'm like, well, you're not on the list. I can't let you in. It's all these celebrities. I don't know anyone. And I even said to them, I said, I don't know anyone. They said, they'll get to know you. We like you. They just liked me. So I knock back all this money, thousands of dollars, and they think, well, this guy can never be bribed. So the guy comes back for his job. They're like, we don't want you back. This guy doesn't take tips. So by default, I become this crazy door guy in Miami, and I become the guy that the celebrities come to know, and it's completely by default. So I shoot a TV show in Miami. I meet the director, David Frankel, who did Sex and the City, at the club. And he said, well, look, and I was doing a music project, and he said, we need a musician. There was like 400 guys at the audition, and I get the part. It gets picked up by CBS. I swear to God. I moved to New York, right? I moved to New York because they were opening up another club called Chaos. I'm their door guy. And they had all these guys in New York that were these celebrities. No, like, no, we got this guy from Australia. And I was the guy. And then it was crazy. So September 11th happens. I'm doing these music projects, and that falls apart. I was at this club called Bungalow 8. They put me on Sex and the City. It was craziness. It was complete insanity. Then September 11th, when I was there, my wife at the time, we went separate. She was done. I was watching the trade centers come down, and that's when I started using heavy. I was drinking heavy into the coke. Like, it was craziness in the city. You know, it was like a rough time for anyone experiencing that. So I was really caught in my disease. And the craziness is 3 years after that, 2004, is when I met Scott Weiland, and me and Scott became best friends. We owned a bar together in New York. I helped create Miami Inc., which then became Bondi Inc. and New York Inc. and all the others. That's crazy. And
created it. That's amazing. So
yeah,
good.
I was one of the guys that helped put it together. But I didn't think it was going to work. So I was doing a VH1 show. I was doing a VH1 show in 2004 about me owning a bar with Scott Weiland before there was a bar show. I created the bar show. It's nuts. Completely fucking out of my mind.
Ultimate manifestation. Like, I want to keep hearing this, but there's so many questions I've got going on right now. So keep this is amazing. This is exactly what it is. Like, how does a rugby playing bloke from Aussie just manifest, like crazy, and just end up going, oh yeah, and now I'm just here in New York, and oh yeah, I'm just here now running this TV show, and oh yeah, now all of these things are happening. Like, was there any part of you that was going, what the fuck is going on? Like, was that happening, or was it just like, oh, of course?
No, I think that's my advantage. I think growing up dyslexic, and having undiagnosed, and not anyone telling me, everyone told me it couldn't be done, but I just had so much faith in myself that it can be done, that I just don't educate any possibility of no. I just don't. I just do. Like, all right, 2004, CBGB's is shutting down. I'm like the door guy, and I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to open a rock bar in New York. And they're like, well, live music sucks. Okay, well, the problem is you go to a rock bar to watch a band and you leave. I said, I'm going to change all that. They're like, you can't. It's been doing this for years. Because you go to a rock bar and you leave. And I said, no, it's different. What I'll do is I'll invite everyone, like a party. Then I will bring the biggest band in the world, a celebrity band, put them on. You'll stay, and then a DJ will come in and play the night. So I'll do the band, and then post. They're like, it's never been done. You're out of your mind. I meet Scott Weiland. He's with Velvet Revolver, the biggest rock band in the world. I find this crazy little space, a Greek restaurant. The guy was going out of business. I'm part Greek. I go do a deal with him. He gives me the lease for nothing. I call Scott. Scott calls me back. We open the bar. Velvet Revolver show up. We were packed every night, 7 days a week. Then I had Korn. I had Papa Roach. I had Slipknot. I had Hoobastank. I had the Killers play their first show there. Right? The guy called me.
The first show.
First show. He called me and said, hey, can you do me a favor? I've got this band, they're going to be huge. Could they play us? Yeah, whatever. And they played. I was like, dude, this band's really good. He goes, yeah, they're called The Killers. They're going to be massive. He goes, and he told me not to. It was packed, but he told me not to say anything. And then they did the tour, and then he came back and did me a favor when they were massive, and they did this big party. Yeah, but I just kind of threw it out in the universe. I mean, all right, here's a perfect example. I was selling a TV show. It was a comedy. And I left New York on good terms. It was great. And I got sober in 2006. So the reason I got sober was Scott and I were shooting the VH1 show, and it just got really dark. And his wife and kids were leaving. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just was like, done. I'm done. I walked into a meeting, and I was just done. Detoxed myself, and I was done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it an accumulation of things, or was it one specific thing that you're like, actually, nah, just no more?
It's a good question. I just felt, I have this weird sense of potential and self-actualization. And I said, I think if I keep doing this, I'm just bullshitting myself. Mm-hmm. I want to do a 180 and see what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It was just a spiritual moment. I was like, I think I'm lying to myself. I should just cut this out.
Yeah. Was there any, because being in that industry and having, recovery is so different for every single person, but when you're in those moments where everyone around you is just living a very different reality, did you feel any of the backlash or any of the pushback from that? Or was it just like, this is what I'm doing? No one can say a thing.
You know what I reckon? This is that's how I help people now. And I'll tell you that story of how I fell into this business. I always believe it's never the environment. You got to think greater than your environment. You know what I mean? People blame they don't have enough money, resources, and time. I'm like, okay, become resourceful, create the time, right? Bring value, you make money. Do you see what I mean? There's always an excuse. So what happens if I can sit in the belly of the beast and get sober? So if I can get sober and stay in a nightclub, I'm not going to go and say, I'm going to be a tennis coach now and then drink after. Do you see what I'm saying? You've got to find purpose. You've got to realize the why. You've got to say, I've got to find a way. This is not connecting to who I really am. I'm making disempowering choices. So why don't I always look at it like this: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, right? We're all looking for a dose. I can get it empowering or disempowering. How am I going to get my dose? And I was getting it disempowering: cocaine, sex, and drinking. I just flipped the script. I was like, I'm just going to do a 180.
Yeah. And then there's that level of just going, when you were going through that and knowing that it wasn't for you, you're not on the right path, it's not what you're here to do, it's not what you were born on this planet to do, and you realize, have you always been connected to, because you're pretty connected to your why right now, have you always been connected to your why, to your purpose?
Yeah, I have, but this is the problem. I always knew I could help people, and I was always an engine. I always drive people. I call them engines and anchors. I'm an engine. I drive people. But this is the problem. Because I could get away with stuff, because, I've got a certain charm and charisma, I would bullshit. I would allow certain behavior. I would get away with it. I could get away with things. I could do massive amounts of drugs and alcohol, and not one person pulled me aside and said, you need to stop drinking or doing drugs.
Oh, wow.
No one.
Wow. So this is completely always been within you, from the moving to America, having all of the incredible things, just everything's just like, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to do. So was there ever anyone around you, and I know family is a massive part of it, especially in our developmental years. Was there anyone ever saying Mike, you should do this, why don't you do this, why don't you do this, instead trying to steer you off? Or is it just
it was all self-driven. No, I never had one direct mentor. I never had one positive influence. Everyone told me I would amount to nothing. Everyone told me, because I got kicked out of school, I was a failure. Everyone told me I was stupid. And everyone said I would fail. And I was like, yeah, you don't know me. And they're like, and it just, every time I take negativity as fuel. So every time someone said to me, you can't, I'm like, you can't, I can. And I will show you. And I was so driven to prove everyone wrong. And then now looking back 30 years since, like, was it 20 something years since I've been in Perth, 25 years, people say to me to this day, kids I grew up with at school that were like, dude, you would sit there and literally tell us, you don't understand, I'm going to do so much damage, I'm going to America, I'm going to write books, and we would laugh at you. And now we go on your Instagram and we do stuff, we're like, oh my God, this guy, we're stuck in Perth, and you're smashing it. And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't wait.
Yes. Okay. So this right here, what you've tapped into, what you've brought up, the amount of people I see, and you probably see it as well, of going, oh, well, this is what my environment tells me. And again, it's this thing of environment. So that level of self-belief and that knowing and that commitment to your path and your purpose that you have, and there's probably not one thing, but what are the biggest things that help you remain so connected to what you can see for yourself that whatever anyone else is saying does not even like bring you off your track?
Oh, I do this. I say indirect and direct mentors. Like if you call you or I, we're a direct mentor, right? But an indirect mentor is gathering information from another human being that does something extraordinary, and you follow their blueprint. So I would always look at people. I've always had a very realistic approach to anything. And that's why I'll take a spiritual concept and break it down for a normal person. So I look at it like this. If someone says to me, how do I get sober? I go, well, this is the simplest thing. First of all, what do you do? And they're like, I drink and do coke. I'm like, well, that's it. Just stop that. They're like, yeah, but I'm like, shut up. If you don't do that, you're sober. Now, you nail that, we can look at spiritual tools that you can grow in different areas of your life, your spiritual life, your health, your family, your finances. You have to have career, a purpose. You have to have hobbies, recreation, you know what I mean? But get the first part, which is commit to that you're making disempowering choices, and you have to shift to your source, your higher power, whatever you want to call it. So because I've never taken other people's information as my reality, ever, I just go indirect mentor. Now, when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of, it wasn't like there was Think and Grow Rich. There wasn't Wayne Dyer books. I read one Wayne Dyer book when I was 20. Two books that changed my life as a kid was The Road Less Traveled and by Scott Peck, and Your Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer, because they were so realistic to me, and I'm like, I love them. And the one advantage I've had in life is I don't need a lot of information. So if I see you do it, I believe I can, that's all I need. That's it. I don't go to 20 people. Like it's just, I see it and then I grab it. That's it. And then I close the gap. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't go to 50 people. I don't need to, I'm like, if that person did it, I can do it. Now, where are they and where am I? What resources do I have? And then I just commit to a massive amount of work. I just work. I look, I don't believe you have to be the smartest. You just have to have an ability to work and adapt.
Yes. Yeah. And the will, I read somewhere something like the willpower and just the knowing where you're going. Everything else doesn't matter. It's all like, it doesn't matter. And it's like,
well,
yeah, you go.
This is where people fail, right? So proper preparation prevents poor performance. Everyone talks, just do it. Just shut up and do it. Figure it out. Just figure it out. And if you're committed to the cause, you figure it. So for me, if I believe I want to do something, whether it's speaking or do it, I just do it. And then what people do is they're waiting for this moment. It doesn't exist. It's process. There's no such thing as passion. Passion is feeling. It's purpose. If I inspire, educate, and motivate people, and that's my job, inspire, educate, and motivate, and then I gather enough information, and then I test enough things that I can inspire people, educate, and motivate, and I stay on purpose, and I bring people value, and I have cause, and I have mission. It doesn't matter what happens. I can go work. Look, there's a famous story that they say it's three guys are working on a cathedral, and he asked one guy what he's doing, and he says, I'm laying bricks, and the other guy says, I'm building a wall, and the third guy says, I'm building a cathedral. And the moral of the story is the guy building the cathedral has a mission. And I'm like, yeah, I don't agree with that. They're like, why? I'm like, flip that again. And they're like, why? And I go, check this out. There's three guys working on a cathedral. He goes to the first guy, what are you doing? He goes, I'm a bricklayer, it's my job. Second guy, I'm a bricklayer, it's my career. Third guy, I'm a bricklayer, it's my calling. It doesn't matter if I'm building a cathedral or working at McDonald's. I'm bringing service to another human being. That's the difference. People looking for the job. That's why people go, oh, my passion is basketball, and their career ends, and what happens? They've got nothing, because you're not being of service. You're just bouncing about, nothing against basketball. But I'm saying that it's beyond, stop. It's going through the process and staying in purpose.
Okay, this is the moment that you're talking about. It's like this illusion that everyone's waiting for of I'll do this when, I'll feel ready when, I'll do this. And it's always putting this external thing onto when they're going to be taking the action. And so like out of all of the, it's just like you're constantly, it's what I can see, you're constantly working towards something, constantly like, having a goal that you're bringing to. What's the biggest things that help you stay connected to the purpose, to your mission, to everything that you are being of service at that current time, to everything that you've put through?
Okay, it's always action. I'll tell you why. We're motivated in two ways. Avoid pain, gain pleasure. It's never going to feel right. Successful people do the work no matter how they feel. Unsuccessful people only do the work when they feel good or right. You're never going to feel good. You never feel right. The last month, I have never felt I should wake up at 4 a.m, I feel good. I just wake up at 4 a.m, and I trust the process. And I know once I meditate, I could go a month and work out every day, do inventory every day, read 4 books in a month, help a bunch of people, and not feel good once. And then you know what? I'll get a moment where I feel like good, and I'm like, oh, that was cool. It was a moment. Do you see what I mean? There's no such thing as what are you waiting for? Like there's no time. You know what I mean? Like the guarantee is we take nothing with us when we die, leave the body. We're spirits having a human experience, okay? Not humans having a spiritual experience. So in this body, we have to learn our lesson to self-actualize, connect with our source, and just do the work. And not, look, it's really simple. Everyone's freaking out right now. About what? What, because you have to sit alone with your thoughts? Because what? You have to stop distracting yourselves with dumb reality TV? What are you worried about? That means you are living way beyond your means anyway. So people say needs and wants. Okay, you may need transportation, but you don't need a BMW. Right? You don't, so like simplify your needs.
This is, and it's so fascinating because, and like a lot of the people that I work with is, they're super interested in activating more of their spirituality and bringing through more of this. And there's always this theme, and it's the same with like through addiction and all sorts of things, the need to escape the current reality that we're actually living in, wanting to surpass the human and like forgetting about all this human stuff that we do, like the getting up when we don't feel like it, the working out when we don't feel like it, the showing up when we don't feel like it. What is the biggest thing that, like this is your life's work, and so you must see this all the time, but what's the biggest thing that you see to help people connect to that going, oh yeah, like I've been chasing something that's not even, like is there one thing, or is it just a whole bunch of things?
I go, first of all, there's always got to be a driver. What's the why? What's the why behind the why? What's getting you up? What's making you make the disempowering choice? What we focus. Oh, are you there? Sorry. What you focus on expands. So what are you focusing on? And why are you focusing on? Like, what's the desired outcome? Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm working with someone, they're overweight, and they're like, I want to lose 50 pounds. I'm like, great. Why? Why? They're like, well, I go, have you ever lost 50 pounds? They're like, no. And I'm like, why 50? Do you think you'll be satisfied at 50? They're like, I'm not sure. I'm like, then maybe we just start with 3 pounds and get that done. And then go to 4 pounds and then go to 5. And you may be happy with 20. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we create these illusions of grandeur of what we think we need, and then you slow everything down. You're like, did you really need it? Did you need the 20-bedroom house when you've got you and your wife? It's a castle of lies. America's the most abundant country in the world. We take more pain pills in this country, and we're massively in debt. Why? And we're miserable, and we're dying of stress. Let me ask you this question. What are you really stressed about? You can't pay your bill? Simplify your life. You say, like, it's like grabbing someone, they're like, and you look at what they spend, they're like, I don't even know. Now, the reason people are messed up is because they don't understand, they have no self-awareness, and they don't understand dopamine receptors, and they don't understand triggers, and they don't understand the environment can trigger you in visual stimulation, so they just randomly, they're consumers, and they buy, have sex, do drugs, and what happens? They have nothing.
You used a term, I think it was about your book, spiritually bankrupt. I thought that is like the epitome of Western society and Western culture. And it's interesting, one of the biggest things I'm observing here, and I'd love to hear in a minute about like everything that's going on, what you're observing around that, but like being here in Bali, the people don't have anything. Like that, literally, the whole family lives together, from, you know, grandparents, parents, that they have so much community, so much love around them. They're so connected to the land, to their way of life. And look at Western countries, New Zealand, Australia, America, UK, and it's just like, where did we get it so wrong? Like, where did we get it so wrong? And then everything that you're seeing at the moment in your work, like, I know you're busier than ever. What's the biggest things that you are like helping people with, seeing in people, like helping people create solutions around? Like, is it?
Well, you know what's interesting? You said spiritual bank. I am very fortunate. I have a crazy Rolodex of clients, in the sense of they're the wealthy of the wealth, and they're the biggest celebrities. I got lucky. The guy that got me sober, there was a clique of guys that knew me from the bar business, because I knew these celebrity guys, and he was the guy, the fix-up, and I just tagged along. And then when he moved out of the business, I was like, 6 years sober. They needed a guy that would go anywhere, anytime, that would shut his mouth and just live on floors if I had to, in detox centers. That's what I would do. I would go anywhere, anytime. And I just got a reputation of a guy that would slow people down. And look, it's like this. I don't force what I do on anyone. That's none of my business. What I try to do is look at their life and figure out how to remove the obstacles and work with their inclination. So I'm a physically fit guy, right? I'm a guy that'll run marathons, lift weights, do crazy stuff. If I get a guy that's a Wall Street guy or an actor, and he's not inclined like me, I'm not going to put him through that. I'll get him doing stuff like yoga or things that work to his inclination. I don't force food on anyone. If someone wants to be a vegan, be a vegan. If you want to eat some meat, eat some meat. That's your business. What I want to do is pull back the layers to find out who you are, and then figure out what's motivating you and why you're making those choices. And then establish some really good daily rituals to build some strong habits that are empowering. And through repetition, we know neurons that fire together wire together. And with an elevated emotion and a clear vision of what you want, you can visualize who you want to be, the future you, and then you will draw it through you to you, law of attraction, like attracts like, that it becomes present in your reality. Do you know? And I just keep it that simple, and I hammer it home, and I always respond to people, and I repeat the same stuff, because the more you repeat it, it starts to reprogram the subconscious mind.
So good. It's like the level of ability to bring these really profound, but also simple, understandings of the workings of the universe, of the workings of how we work with energy, how we tap into our purpose, how we become the person that we were born to be. Like, when you start sharing these concepts with people who are going, like might help. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. Can you help? How is that level of spirituality like how is it received with people who have been switched off from that or disconnected from that?
They get it because I try to make it spirituality one-on-one. Look, I don't have a PhD from Stanford. I don't need to test a rat in a lab. I test myself. You know, when I sit with someone, I'm like, dude, I got sober in the bar business. You want to get sober? I'll show you. I can run 30 half marathons in 30 days after stomach surgery. I was told by a doctor that I could not heal myself naturally in 6 weeks. I needed to take my colon out after I had septic shock. I lost 7 inches from my intestines, right? I was told I would never run again, and I'd never run a half marathon. And then my baby came 7 weeks premature, and I was like, this guy doesn't know me. 6 weeks later, I was healed. And then I ran 1 half marathon pushing the baby, and 1 year after that, I ran 30 in 30 days in August with a hernia. So I know something.
Just a little bit. Like, you're amazing.
Like, you can't, look, I always say to people, there's things you can't bullshit, right? Go out and run a half marathon, and you have to be in some kind of shape. There's no man out there to run 30 in 30 days with a hernia. I said, so then I've got to have something going on. Because if I'm running 30 in 30 days, or you see people run 30 marathons in 30 days, we're tapping into our source. You can't do, that's just not, your body doesn't go, yeah, let's do it. No, you got to go so deep into purpose and spirit to do that. So it's like, if someone comes to me and wants something, I'm like, look, if you want to work with me, it's simple. I'm honest, I'm upfront, I'm authentic. I don't have an agenda, but don't come to me and then say, you want what I have, and then you don't do anything. Doesn't work like that.
Yes. I'm so glad that you've spoken into it. It's incredible. It's I feel like we could talk for ages, but I'm wanting to honor your time and everything as well. But when you see the, like, everything that you've tapped into with connecting with that source within, what is your vision, and what is the world that, you know, those of us who are doing the work, and when you're committing to bringing everything through that you are, what is the earth that you can see in that vision that you've got of what we are as humanity, as a planet? What does that look like? What are you seeing?
This is what I think, and I'll be honest with you. I think this is a time where people like me and you, look, here's the perfect, like there's two human beings. There's Hitler that gets abused and beaten down and changes the frequency of the music, the Hertz frequency, which we all know is 432. He changed the frequency to, you know, hypnotize, and he tapped into the family system, knowing that the young man was angry, right? So he wants to take over the world and spread his poison. Then you have Viktor Frankl, who's caught in Auschwitz, who goes through losing his wife, his mum and dad in the concentration camps, realizes he has a life of purpose, writes Man's Search for Meaning, creates logotherapy, and becomes the greatest positive psychologist in the world. So we know one person could pick up a guitar like Dave Grohl and put 30,000 people in a room and they can all sing along. Okay. So right now when people are in pain, they need a dose of positivity. So who's to say people like me and you create a movement like the Conscious Outlaw, and we drop doses on people because there's an anchored experience with an elevated emotion. And what I mean by that is if I drop enough positivity on you and people, that frequency will spread. When that frequency spreads, right, and the ripple effect of that positivity keeps going out through viral content, all of a sudden, people can't wait to get their dopamine hit, just like a video game of positivity from a movement that can become infectious. So you can take the same COVID thing and flip it and say, well, what happens if we do something positive like COVID? And we spread positivity and love and help people close the gap and give them and so I believe there's a great time right now to flip it and take that negativity and that anger and energy and actually use it in a positive way and shift people's perception and help them reframe.
This is everything you're saying right now. I can literally feel the cells in my body going, yes, 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 yes. You know, like even just having these conversations, even people like tuning in and listening to these sorts of conversations and doing everything that they possibly can, just little bit by little bit by little bit. And then you've got, you know, Conscious Outlaw, like share more about this, because this is, like you said, it's been on the cards for 2 years and now's the time to come through.
Well, what it is I wanted to create a movement that I feel that everyone could feel. It doesn't have to be a spiritual movement. It's a movement of positivity and self-actualization that you could be a farmer and be a conscious outlaw if you're living your potential. Do you know what I mean? So I don't like where people feel, look, I'll be honest with you, I've never been anonymous about my using because I always felt like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that. Oh, no, I'm not anonymous. I tell my story because then it allows a young drug addict to look at me that may think, oh, he's a tattoo guy who's on all these shows. When I go to a school and drop the hammer and tell, 1,000 kids I smoked crack or kicked out of school, that day when I leave, my message box is full of kids that go, oh my God, thank you, you're dyslexic, oh my God, oh, you have colitis. I had a bunch of kids come up to me, I crap my pants, I wear a diaper, I tell them, and guess what? They come up and like, oh, I have so much shame. So I remove people's shame by being honest, because I'm not ashamed of my mistakes. I'm whole because of it. So you know what I mean? So it's like, the Conscious Outlaw movement is connecting with people like yourself in different cities and putting enough viral content out there. And because I've got I've got a lot of connections and a lot of people in the right places, and it's spreading now. So people can be part of something positive when they're feeling stuck, when they're feeling lost, and they go, you know what, there's that in the world now. Because I didn't have that, remember? I didn't have the internet. So now I had to figure it out. So now that I did it without it, so if I can do it without it, here's some information to help you do it.
Incredible. It's incredible. Do you know, like, is there a part of you that knows that you were born to make this sort of difference in the world?
Yeah.
Knowing? Yeah.
I knew it. Yeah, I knew it as a little kid. This was my purpose, because I'll tell you a crazy story. So when I was 17, 18, I have an older cousin who's got mental health issues, and my auntie and uncle were very good to me, my mum's brother, and he'd been in and out of the psych ward. So I went to have dinner with him before I was going to Sydney, and they're like, he won't come out of his room, and he came out and we spent like 6 hours talking. So my auntie pulled me aside, and we're really close, and she said, hey, what do you need to stay in Perth? And I'm like, I can't stay in Perth. I got to get out of this environment. I got to move to Sydney. I'm going to America. And she's like, we will give you anything. We will set you up. They're very wealthy. We'll set you up for life. You have a ticket. We'll buy you an apartment. And I'm like, I can't do that. And they're like, what did you do to him? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you can connect to him. No one can connect to him. And I just had that. I mean, a friend of mine reminded me the other day, it kind of clicked. He's like, dude, you've always been doing this. I'm like, what do you mean? So when I got kicked out of school, I went to this really rough, I went from private school to really bad public school. And they didn't have a football team, an Aussie rules football team. So I was like, we need to create a footy team. They're like, you'll never get a team. So I literally got all the kids that were like Indigenous, whatever, and I started training them. I'm like, we're going to have a footy team. And everyone laughed, like there's no. So we got this really good coach, and I said, these kids are pretty rough. He's like, because he knew me from playing in other districts. And I was, I went to a school that was like a sports school. So I captained the school, and, and we were doing it. And we played the ex-state champions in the first game back, and all the kids came out to watch. But they came out really to laugh because they thought we'd suck. And we smashed them. And they were like, what the hell? So we won 11 games or 12 games straight, and then played in the final, but lost to that team by a point in the final. And it was so crazy. But what was crazy about it was my friend reminded me, he said, I don't know how you did it. You would get in our heads like during class, and you were so committed to do it. And we knew you were going to do it. We knew you would out-train everyone. But you just convinced us somehow. So I think I mean, here's a crazy story. I was working in Miami, and there was a guy that used to come to the club every night for money, and I'd give him money. I was making a fortune, and it was like I would give him money, and then one Christmas, he said he had these Navy SEAL plaques. He was an ex-Navy SEAL that smoked crack or kicked out. So that night, I said, look, I'm going to take you for breakfast. And I got him a hotel for 2 weeks. I was like, you can't sleep on the street. You know, this is my Christmas present, New Year's present. So I hadn't seen him for 3 weeks, and I was worried. I thought he might be dead. And I paid it up front in cash. And then I saw him, and he's like, hey, man, I've had some rough times. And he said, can I have some money? I said, I'm not going to pay you. I'm not going to give you money anymore as a crackhead. I just won't do that. I said, but this is what I'll do. I said, I believe that you're a Navy SEAL. So you're going to meet me. I finish work at 4:30. You're going to meet me on the beach at 5. We're going to train together, and I will pay you to train me. He's like, what? I said, otherwise I'm not giving you shit, and I'll buy you breakfast. So I kind of knew. I was like, let me see if this guy was really an ex-Navy SEAL, because you still have the skills. So we went out on the beach. It was like 5 a.m. in Miami, beautiful morning. And we started messing around, and I'd done some martial arts, but like within a second, he went back to Navy SEAL, and he wasn't a crackhead anymore. And he was like just missing my head with punches and kicks, and he could do the splits each way. And I'm like, so I said, this is what I'll do. I'll put you in a place, right? You do not beg for money, get sober. I'm going to put you in a place, and I'll pay for it, and you can train me, be my personal trainer. So a year goes by, and I'm about to move to New York at the time, because I went from Miami to New York, and I got him a job. And they're like, we can't give him a job. I said, you've got to do it. You've got to do it for me. And they're like, all right. And I said, if he messes up once, you can fire him. So a couple of weeks had gone by. It was a week before I was leaving. And the owner of it was a clothing boutique on South Beach. And he's like, I've got to talk to you about Alan. And I'm like, oh my God. So I didn't say anything. I said, what happened? And he's like, what did he do before here? And I'm like, he was a crackhead. And he's like, really? No, but before that, I'm like, I didn't want to say anything. I'm thinking, what did he do? So someone comes in to rob the store with a huge knife, and the poor girl's behind the counter threatening the guy with the knife, threatening him, and Alan's in the back of the stockroom, and he comes out and he just flips the Navy SEAL switch, grabs the guy, flips him out of his boots, restrains him with a knife, and was like a hero. And I go, yeah, well, he's an ex-Navy SEAL that turned into a crackhead. Now he's sober. It's a great story. But so you know, yeah, so I had that, and that's how I actually started getting people sober. It was more of a, let me just figure out where you're at, and let me try to help. You know what I mean? So, but now obviously coaching and studying and understanding interventions, neuro-linguistic programming, meditation. Yeah, I mean, now I have a strategy, but back then it was just like, oh, I'll help you out.
Totally intuitive, just totally you. And here's the thing, like so many people go, I feel like I'm here to do something big. I feel like I'm here to do something big. And it's like, well, do it. Just get started. Just do it. Do whatever it is, and don't wait for that permission. And I think like from everything that you've shared, and I feel honestly like we could talk for hours. You've got so much wisdom and knowledge and awareness. It's awesome. And one of the biggest things that I would love to hear you share with everyone who's tuning in, and knowing that they've got a big purpose, and especially if they've been in an environment with everyone telling them that they can't do that, because that's what I think that's one of the biggest things that we're facing. Like what is the biggest thing that you would say to those people based on your experience, knowledge, and everything that you've been through?
Okay, I believe we all know our purpose, and I look at it like this. We're inclined in a way. And what I mean by that is I was a really good actor, but it wasn't my purpose to act. I was good at it, but it wasn't my purpose. It was something I was good at. Purpose is different. Purpose is service. I was never giving service as an actor. Now, as an actor, if I made films that we would make together on spiritual concepts and things that helped people find value, or did movies like, say it was The Alchemist, things like that, that would be part of my purpose. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, that's not to say other actors are different. They may have purpose in the roles they do. For me, it wasn't my calling. It was something I did because I was good at it. That doesn't mean you're going to be good at it at the start. So I always say, Figure out, if you had all the money in the world, if you had all the time and the resources, what would you do? And if they're like, well, I would love to do this, I'm like, that's what you have to do. And it may be, you know, painting, and you're like, yeah, but I can't paint. Yes, you can. You just got to get into the process and let go of the ego. It may be writing. Maybe you journaled as a kid, you're really good, and then someone told you sucked and you stopped journaling, but you write a blog and that blog helps connect people. You may be a really good cook and you don't realize you bring a lot of love and purpose in that to other people that gives them enjoyment. So go out and cook. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you've got to find what's you. But I knew for me, it was always about speaking to people, motivating people. And then I realized how to articulate, because I couldn't articulate what I was saying on paper because I wasn't trained like that. I was trained to speak and do those things. So I had to really study and understand, how am I going to take concepts and write about them that any human being, a kid or an adult, can pick up and read and feel like I'm sitting with them, you know, coaching them. And that's what's been I've got a new book coming that'll come this year, and I'll send you some chapters before it drops. But it's like, I mean, I go dark. My first publishing company didn't want me to go too dark in my story. This, I go really deep into my story in the first part, and then I go all into process in the second part.
Awesome, awesome. When's that going to be out for everyone who's tuning in?
I'll probably, sorry about that. It'll probably drop in the fall. But I'll give away a lot of it to start, because I don't like, it's not about money, me, it's about the message. So I'm aligning with I'll get a really good publishing company that'll do a deal with me where I give away a lot of stuff first, just to give people the concept. It's not about money, just, do you know what I mean? I don't think you should write to make money. I think you should write, you know, just to give people process and stuff like that. I mean, if you make money selling a book, great, but give them away.
Yeah, there's a message in the world. Oh, that's cool. Can't wait to read it. It's awesome. What's some parting wisdom you'd like to share, or just like one thing that you'd like to leave as legacy from this conversation and in the planet as well?
I'll give you 3 things. If you're feeling emotionally disturbed, I use the stop method. Stop, take a breath, observe and proceed. Okay? If you're ruminating, I use the stamp method to stamp on negativity. Stop, take a breath, adjust the thinking, make the change, then proceed. And the third thing is, it's information, become curious, and don't take anything personal.
So good. So good. Thanks, Mike. That's awesome. And everyone tuning in, make sure that you are following Mike on Instagram, and you've got I'll put all the links in the show notes and everything. But thank you so much. You're amazing.
Bye. Thank you.